Today's video is sponsored by Elderbrain's Crown of the Oathbreaker. Embark on a dark fantasy 5e adventure that's compatible with Pathfinder 2nd Edition. This 500-page adventure campaign will take players from level 5 to 12. That includes an adventure module, the campaign setting, and a 50-page player's guide. This book is packed with incredible content that was voted on by over 2,000 players and DMs. 5 large sandbox maps with over 100 encounter locations in each. 27 dungeon maps with DM and player versions. 150-plus illustrated NPCs. 30-plus new magic items. 20-plus new monsters and 4 monster templates. A mind-blowing 36 new subclasses and archetypes, 3 for each base class, and over 40 new spells and feats. The amount of content in this book will provide you and your party with amazing adventures in a fantastic setting. From the beautiful art, fun subclasses, clever new items, and the well-written adventure, Crown of the Oathbreaker is a win on every level. Click on the link in the description below and treat yourself or your DM and embark on a quest to break the curse that plagues the land. And now what you're here for. The Ranger's new boots are out to kill him. Hi everyone, All Things D&D is back with another story. The wonderful boon of treasure. The thing that drives most parties to delve into the darkness and defeat evil creatures. Sweet, sweet loot. But sometimes looks can be deceiving, and those awesome new boots may not be so awesome. Unless you convince yourself otherwise. Listen to how this player fails to realize that something may be amiss with his fancy new boots, and tell us about your cursed item stories afterward. I don't normally post stories here, but something came to light in my game last night that's been going on for quite a while, and I think it definitely deserves sharing. I'm telling this as I, the DM, experienced it in all the dramatic detail. Many months ago, my players, at the time, Monk, Paladin, and Ranger, plus an NPC friend, were working their way through a monster's lair. The lair belonged to a dragon and was located at the top of the mountain. They make their way into the bottom of the lair and defeat the minions there, a bunch of undead. They're surprised to find quite a few consumable magic items on the corpses, so they look around to see if there's anything else interesting. They roll okay on an investigation check, and I describe a part of the wall that clearly stands out from everything around it. They feel around and quickly manage to open the hidden door, behind which is a small room with a small pile of treasure in it. The pile includes gold, gems, and a couple of magic items, a short sword, plus one with some other properties, and some boots. Over a short rest, they identify the boots as being boots of spider climbing. Ranger likes the sound of that, since he can rain arrows down on people from walls and ceilings, and so he attunes to them. A little while later in that very lair, they find a very large vertical passageway, about 100 feet tall. Monk can just run up it at this point, and now so can Ranger. They decide the best option is to give potions of reduce to Paladin and NPC, who can then climb into the bag of holding, which Monk is carrying. Ranger gets right to the top and is about to step onto the edge. The boots then fail, and Ranger plummets. Side note, I use a slightly harsher method of determining fall damage than what is provided in the PHB, but also allow acrobatics checks to potentially avoid some or most of this damage. Ranger fails the acrobatics check and hits the ground hard. He's luckily at max HP and has some temp HP from Paladin's inspiring leader, so he survives but takes a lingering injury, reducing his speed until he takes some downtime or gets some greater restoration. Monk runs back down to help and ask what happened. The Ranger's response? Anti-magic field. I say nothing. I hadn't expected that assumption, but it makes some sense, and they've encountered an anti-magic field in a dungeon before. I have a mild panic attack when I realize that if he tries to use the boots to walk down the mountain after the lair, then there probably won't be enough of a body left to revivify, but I avoid reacting. They manage to get through the rest of the dungeon. Fortunately for his long-term health, Ranger doesn't attempt to run down the mountain, because he dies fighting the final boss, and his reduced corpse is shoved inside the bag of holding. The party returns to civilization, and manages to get Ranger resurrected. The party then gets embroiled in a hunt for some warlocks who are kidnapping people. They're joined by a new PC, Bard, to whom they give the magic short sword they found in the monster's lair. The short sword has the thrown and returning properties, and requires attunement. During this time, Ranger scales trees and small buildings with the boots without issue. At the end of the quest, they find the warlock's underground lair in the city, and prepare to storm it with a bunch of guards. The party leads the way as they're all quite good at stealth. They all roll well and expect to surprise the surviving warlocks. Then Bard's short sword begins screaming, very, very loudly. The warlock is alerted and teleports away with one of the hostages. Everyone remembers where they got the short sword and realize that it's probably cursed to screw over intruders in the lair. It gets pointed out that the sword was found right next to Ranger's boots, but no one takes that thought further. They sell the sword without mentioning the curse. Fast forwarding a lot, the party's in another big dungeon. The room ahead of them has some scary stuff in it, so they move through very quickly. Halfway through, I describe how Ranger's feet are suddenly stuck to the ground, and they fall to the back of the party as they're ambushed by giant spider constructs hiding above them. Ranger survives the surprise attack and runs up the wall onto the ceiling, whilst on very few hit points. Once again, the boots fail as he reaches the highest point. This time, the fall damage does down Ranger. Everyone does survive in the end. Ranger remarks, "I hate how every time I go somewhere high up in a dungeon, there's always anti-magic field." Even more puzzlingly, he assumes the reason he struggled to walk when the spider pounced on him was due to webbing, even though no webbing was shown or described, and no one else was affected as they walked over the same area. Sure thing, buddy. I really struggled to decide whether to state clearly that there is no discernible webbing or obstruction, but since I hadn't implied any such thing existed in the first place, I thought it best to allow the PC to believe that, if it made sense to the player. Surely they would figure it out next time. Fast forward a lot again to last night. They're heading to a sacred mountaintop shrine in hopes of gaining divine insight on their current quest. They're aware that there will be certain trials on the climb. On the climb, they have to cross a rickety rope bridge across a misty gorge, which seems to be guarded by a pair of air elementals. Ranger wants to walk down to see what's beneath the mist, but is cautious of any anti-cheating effects, so asks Paladin to hold the other end of his rope. Lo and behold, the second he steps over the cliff edge and is facing a 100-foot-tall onto solid rock, the boots fail and he begins to plummet again. Luckily, both he and Paladin are quite strong, so they both hold on, and Ranger gets pulled back up again. He remarks that obviously there was going to be something in place to stop him from doing that, hence the rope. At this point, I'm struggling to hold it together a little bit. They got the boots months ago, and they failed Ranger multiple times, but only in the most crucial scenarios. But the Ranger's player had rationalized it every single time, and did so with such confidence that no one else voiced any doubt. However, they do have an NPC companion, who informed them of the shrine in the first place. He doesn't believe there's anything that should have deactivated magic items there, so is pretty confused, but I decide he isn't going to say anything yet, as they don't know each other very well. At the top of the mountain, they find the shrine defended by a guardian spirit that's blasting everyone with thunder and lightning. It also has a wind aura which throws projectiles back at people. The fight is going pretty well for the party, but as the elemental moves into melee with the frontliners, the Ranger circles around to the opposite side of the summit from where they ascended. I point out that there's a sheer and certainly fatal drop only a few feet behind him, and that their enemy seems to have a lot of forced movement options. He understands and is pretty confident that the melee people will keep it occupied. Of course, he decides it's a good idea to take cover, by stepping off the edge of the summit onto the side of the cliff face. You do so, and the boots fail, and you begin to fall to the valley floor hundreds of feet below. In my head, I say goodbye to the character. Crap! Okay, so Ranger is falling, but the battle's still going on. Monk, it's your turn. Monk asks if he can catch up to and grab the falling Ranger if he uses all of his movement and dashes with both action and bonus action. Okay, but you're gonna need to make an athletics check to do all of that. 22. I describe how Monk catches the Ranger Batman Begins style, and both of them are left hanging there. Paladin, Bard, and NPC finish off the monster. They help the duo climb back up, and Ranger says, "I should have known there would be something to stop someone climbing up the mountain another way." I think my head is just about to explode at this point. I really can't keep a straight face. The other player comments on how Ranger seems to get into a lot of trouble with those boots. In character as the NPC, I ask when the boots had failed before, and they give a fairly comprehensive list of everything I've just explained in detail above. I check the NPC's int score. It's higher than 8. I sigh. I think the fun is finally over. Are you sure the problem is not the boots themselves? The look on the Ranger's face as he realizes was absolutely priceless. Everyone at the table went absolutely crazy. In the end, good times were had by all. What makes this the best is that the player did this to themselves. It's one thing to have a sneaky DM try to sabotage someone with a cursed item, because let's face it, that is funny. But to have the player convince themselves over and over that it was something else is just perfect. I'm glad it ended on a happy note and everyone had a great time. I'm sure the next time the Ranger finds some boots, he's gonna figure out if they're cursed or not. Please let us know what you think and comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, All Things D&D. Our videos are posted every Tuesday and Friday, so stay tuned for more amazing Dungeons & Dragons content.